you're going to be able to attract the best candidates who are not on the market because your outreach is going to be so much better than everybody else's. That's the power of this. The people that just go do the volume stuff and the completely AI recruiting, they're going to go get the shitty candidates who are going to be seduced by that. It's like any other big scam thing where the king of Nairobi is reaching out to you and the initial email is terrible and it's intentionally terrible because they want dumb people responding to it. It's like the same sort of thing with bad recruiting emails. You're going to get bad recruits.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today we have a very special interview ahead of us, but before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover things like trending topics. Stop by every Tuesday for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. Some days we get into Q&A, and occasionally you'll get a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. Now, as a reminder, if you like the content that we share here on the show, make sure that you subscribe for more. All right, everyone. I've been working on a little something the past few months, and I am beyond excited to share it finally today. So for this entire month of August, we're going to be focusing on all things biz dev. And so instead of hearing from us or other recruiters about it, I decided, hey, let's bring in the very best biz dev practitioners from outside the recruitment space and have them share what's helped them and their organizations become so successful with those BD efforts. So today we have our first guest, and the topic is going to start the series off with a bang, to say the least. We have Kyle Coleman joining us. He's the CMO at Copy.ai, and they hold the belief that busy work is killing go-to-market teams and their company's bottom line. So they've built the first ever GTM AI platform that powers sales and marketing processes. So who could be better to help us tackle the hottest topic in recruitment right now? How does AI fit into a recruiter's workflow, especially during these days of the quantity and volume backed strategies becoming less and less effective? So pull out your pen and paper for this one. You're going to want to take notes. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam. No place I'd rather be.
I love it. Yeah, we were laughing before this podcast. We've had our circles crossed so many times over the past couple of years, and this is the first time we finally get to sit down and have this conversation. So I love that it's finally coming together. It couldn't be at a better time.
Indeed. Yeah, swimming in the same ponds and somehow have avoided each other all these years. Not anymore, yes. My friend. Let's do it.
Exactly. All right. So recruiters and business development, it's really come to light last 6-12 months. The recruiter's like, okay, I have to go out and start prospecting, really building out my pipeline because, people aren't hiring like they were back in 2020, 2021, where it was just jobs coming in galore. And they're realizing, okay, I have to go out and start putting some effort to this. So before we jump into some tactical stuff, one of the things that you shared before that I absolutely loved is this prospecting Venn diagram. If you could walk us through a little bit, kind of like the 4 circles of what all that encapsulates, I think that's going to start feeding into what we'll get into with the conversation in a minute.
Yeah, sure thing. So let me first say, a lot of the principles that we're talking about here, Sam, are principles that I have seen be extremely successful on the biz dev side, the sales side, prospecting side. But these principles absolutely hold true. And why do they hold true? Because fundamentally what we're doing is we are getting people's attention and we're convincing them to take action. Bottom line, that's the foundation. And so if you're skeptical about, oh, no, this is recruiting, it's different than sales. No, it isn't. There is a ton of overlap. And yes, of course, at the margins, there are things that are different. But ultimately, you're trying to do the same thing. A, get somebody's attention. B, compel them to take action. And so I just wanted to make sure that, before people click this off, they hear that these principles have created literally hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and billions of dollars in market cap for the companies I've worked at and the thousands of people that I've trained. And I've specifically spoken to HR and recruiting people at my previous companies in-house that I worked with, as well as other people who have said, hey, these translate. We're using all these principles in our outreach to great success. So just wanted to say that first. So What makes for good messaging? What makes for good messaging, and it's not going to be super revelatory here. The problem is that it's hard. So what makes for good messaging? It's 4 pillars. Number 1 is, especially from a sales context, what is the account that you're selling into? So maybe through a recruiting lens, it's more about what's the account that you're selling? Who are you recruiting for? You have to really understand that account super, super well. It's inexcusable not to. And it's not just understanding the account itself and the industry they're in and the year they were founded and the amazing growth trajectory they're on. Come on, that doesn't pass the sniff test. anymore. What passes the sniff test now is you need to understand the macro trends that are happening in that industry, why that account is uniquely suited to take advantage of those macro trends. You have to be able to double click into things and give more rationale way beyond the surface level stuff that you could get away with when everybody and their uncle was hiring and looking for a job and all the rest. So account level research is the first part of the Venn diagram. The second part of the Venn diagram is personas. You need to understand the persona that you are selling to, or in this case, the persona that you are hiring for, and way beyond their title and their job responsibilities. Like that's surface level stuff that's not going to get the job done. You need to know the metrics that they're accountable for. You need to understand the internal politics and organizational structure and who they are accountable to. You need to understand, like get inside their head to know what makes them tick. So the persona level understanding is extremely important. That's the second circle. Third circle is the person themselves. So take the A off of persona. You need to know the person themselves. And what a lot of people miss is they think, oh, personalization is about, the hobbies they have and they foster huskies and I want to try and mention that in my outreach. It's like, that's okay, maybe. But what's more powerful is understand their work history and then connect the dots as to how can you uniquely position your value prop to align with that work history. For example, I became a CMO up through SDR and demand generation. I did not become a CMO up through product marketing or content marketing. I have a soft spot for SDRs and demand gen people. So if you're reaching out to me and selling me on some sort of MarTech, you damn well better focus on the pipeline aspects of things versus the product marketing side of things, because that's what I understand best. That's what's going to get my attention. So when you're researching a person, looking through their LinkedIn history, you need to be able to connect the dots looking backward and tell this person's story to yourself so that you can adequately put together the fourth part of the Venn diagram, which finally is your value prop. And not the value prop that's the headline on the website. The super double click, triple click understanding of why this company exists. What is the main problem that they are solving? Why is it a transformational problem that addresses all the other elements of the Venn diagram? So account research, person research, persona research, and your company's value prop. And the intersection of those four things is effective messaging. Whew, how's that for a monologue?
I love it. I don't know if we're going to be able to get that down to a minute for YouTube Shorts, but we'll cut you some slack on it. So some of the things that I really like in there, especially when the first couple, the first three really, like persona knowledge, account knowledge, and personal knowledge, is what that does is it forces you to create visibility and transparency, which is what companies hiring external recruiters want and working, like, what can I expect from working with you? And also the candidates that you're going to be reaching out to want to know, like, what's it like to work at this company? How much am I getting paid? Like, what are benefits, day in the life, all that looking. So by doing this, you're going to have to do this research anyway if you want to successfully do your job later on. So you're just doing it a little bit earlier. And then that's also massively impacting the rate at which you will have people reading the emails, responding to your emails, wanting to take that first call and seeing like, oh, wow, Kyle's way better than the other 9 recruiters that I talked to that tried to pitch, their services to me. Like, he actually gets it. And I trust that he can probably bring in some of the best candidates, because if this is his approach to just getting my attention, I can't imagine what he's doing in the process later on.
100%. And I'm on the receiving end of quite a bit of recruiting outreach. And let me be the first to tell you, Sam, most of it is terrible. Like, truly, genuinely, type form. I can tell the only thing you change about this email is the first name. And sometimes you didn't even change that.
I don't know. I mean, that's some good personalization there. Just, the % first name, Kyle, with the emoji. You don't have an emoji in it, so it isn't completely obvious there. But yeah, that's what we're setting out today and for the course of this month to really help improve.
Right, exactly. And maybe to put a finer point on it and something that's more actionable is most of the outreach that I get, Sam, and that I see, and the inclination that most recruiters have, it seems, is to be very intrinsic. They're very introspective in their outreach. They are talking all about themselves and the opportunity. And they're not talking about why the recipient should care. And until you convince somebody that they should care, they're not going to take action. And you're not going to compel somebody by just saying, this is a rocket ship and its market cap is XYZ, funded by the best VCs in the world. Like, that is not enough. You have to actually have some compelling reason, just like in sales outreach, some compelling reason to get somebody's attention and then make them take action. And it has to be about them and not about you.
I love that. And I think that is a perfect segue as we were talking about bad personalization a second ago. You are huge on relevance and how you incorporate that into your outreach messages. So you shared a post not long ago, but the first line of it was, you should always have a compelling reason for your cold outreach. Like, these are not compelling reasons based on your title. I saw your profile on LinkedIn, insert any of these other awful ones. So tell me a little bit more about why you think this shift over to like relevance in the first line, and how relevance is different from personalization as part of these outreach messages.
Yeah, so let's start with some email mechanics real quick. The reason the first line of the email is so important is because people see it before they open your email. People see your name, the subject line, and the first 18 or so words of the email. And so that's what's dictating the open rate of your email messages. If your first line is not good, or is "I hope this finds you well" type form type stuff, you are going to trigger what the folks at Lavender call the mental spam filter, which I think is a great phrase. I want to give them credit for that. You're going to trigger that mental spam filter. They're not going to open your email. It's going to end up in the outbox, or in the archive box. And so people can't respond to an email unless they open it. So you have to optimize for this. So that first line of the email, the goal of it is to say, "I did my research." Well, to show I did my research. And you want there to be some sort of meaningful showcase of the research that you did. And that's why saying something like, "I noticed on LinkedIn that you're the CMO at Copy.ai." Like, "Oh, you noticed that? You just happened to stumble upon that information?" Like, so what? You have to say something that's actually interesting to me. So even if you start with something like, "As a CMO who came up through SDR," way more interesting. Way more interesting, because at least I know you've looked at my career journey, you understand me a little bit more, or something like that. And so you want to be relevant to the person. Now, in that the difference between relevance and personalization a lot of times is something that is like only uniquely about me. And so if you want to mention the fact that I have 2 corgis and I like to run, like, cool, but ultimately that's pretty disconnected from the business that we're trying to run and the recruiting that you're trying to do. So typically I point people toward relevance as a starting point for their outreach. And then you can layer in the personalization stuff when you're on the phone with them. And when you're like building rapport, that's where that kind of like corgi ownership type stuff starts to be a little bit more impactful. So focus on that hyper relevance in that first line that is showcasing a true reason for your outreach. And that is going to compel people to read the rest of the email and then ultimately respond.
I really like that, how you flip the relevance and the personalization of so many. It's like, yeah, personalization might get you to open an email, but then if you read the email and after that first line, it just gets into this bad pitch or something else that like isn't related to what you do. Cool, you got an email open, but nothing from it. Whereas, okay, you figured out like what Kyle's biggest pain point is. He reads the email and he agrees, and then you get on a call with him and you're starting to tell him like, "Hey, man, I saw you running. I just finished a half marathon the other week." Like, that's going to build a rapport so much better too. And I really like that subtle dynamic shift of how to utilize both those. I mean, even for myself, like, I'm going to go back and start doing this ASAP. Like, that in itself is a huge takeaway right alone.
100%. And what I also recommend and see a lot of people do is they'll use that like postscript line, the PS line in that initial email for the personalization. So the meat of the email is hyper relevant and it's contextualized. It's about the person, and then it's about the opportunity. And then the PS is like, "Hey, by the way, I saw you owned a couple corgis. They're the best, small but mighty. Talk to you soon." Like, okay, cool. Like, totally disconnected from the rest of the email, but shows me that at least you read my about section on LinkedIn, which is more than most salespeople and recruiters do.
Very fair. So LinkedIn, this leads us to, you shared the other week. I was kind of disappointed. I thought it was hilarious and genius, and not too many people compared to your other posts were liking as much. The Drake meme, where it was just, like, you got the Drake like looking away, not happy, and then the one where he's just like, yeah, he's got it. And so the looking away was calling it like the AI SDR. And then the you got it one is the AI powered SDR. So we're just going to translate SDR for any recruiter as a sales development representative. Anyone who recruits tech knows that term, but the concept is the exact same for like business development. So you're really pushing hard on this notion of, it's not like AI job function, but it's how do you leverage AI as part of that job function to be successful. So before we get right into like how you can start doing this, like, why are you so bullish about it?
Because I've trained thousands of SDRs and salespeople, and training for the most part has been training them on mundane, menial, time-consuming tasks. And as a result, the training is in one ear and out the other. And people more often than not end up just not doing the principles that you're training them on. And those principles are really important because, as we just talked about, they create the foundation for effective outreach. You have to do research on the account, on the person, on the persona, on your own company. You have to really understand it. The problem, though, is that people get seduced by the numbers game. Instead of going and doing that really nice research and spending the few hours that it takes to build an account plan and do all these things, I'm just going to go send 100 type form generalized emails and play and hope that the math works out in my favor. And so it's very time consuming. The reason I'm bullish on AI powered SDRs is because now AI is very good at those research steps. So now you can codify your best practices for research using AI, and you can replicate that over and over and over again for every account or every person or everybody that you are researching. And that saves a huge amount of time. So the upshot of that is not for you to go and send 1,000,000 emails instead of 100. The upshot of it is now those 100 emails are going to be really damn good. And you're going to be able to do the other omni-channel outreach that you need to do on LinkedIn and video messaging and cold calling or whatever it is through the recruiting lens that will make you ultimately successful. Because some people will never respond to a cold email. Some people will never respond to a LinkedIn message. Some people will only respond to a cold call. Like, you have to do these omni-channel things in order to compel the person to take action and get their attention in the first place. And so that's the AI powered SDR. My fear of the AI SDR full automation is that we lose the humanity in all of this. And recruiters, you're recruiting people. Like, you're not recruiting robots to come fill a production line. I don't think, anyway, unless I could be wildly wrong. And so, like, you can't strip the humanity out of your process. And if you just push a button and expect everything to be on autopilot, like, why would that work? Put yourself on the receiving end of that. You've gotten the robo calls, you've gotten the robo emails, you immediately dismiss them. And so my fear of like the AI SDR, the AI recruiter, is that it's going to skip a lot of very important steps in the research. It's going to lose that human element of brainstorming and thinking about how do I stitch all this information together. And then it's going to create a really robotic experience for the buyer or for the candidate. And that is a nightmare because our universe is already inundated with garbage outreach. We don't need more of it that's just sent by a robot.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing is we're already like the volume, the quantity play is not working. And now some people are saying, okay, well, I'll just do AI to do it and I'll do even more. It's like, well, the science already there. Like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over. Well, do that more. Like, what's that make you if it's beyond insanity? I don't know. But maybe come up with a term for that. But I think it ties in really well with what we always talk about for recruiters. Their biggest thing is their workflow. So they use God knows how many different tech tools to do all this, and they're jumping from platform to platform. When you can consolidate all of this into one spot from the time saving standpoint, and you really get to see like, okay, I'm going to be able to do all my research in this spot, and I'm going to just be able to carry this over seamlessly into those outreach messages, the calls, the phone, the text, the LinkedIn DMs, any of that. This is such a native, intuitive part of the workflow that you're just not having it be so manual anymore, but you are leveraging AI to like power the work that needs to be done anyway. But how can you take that and start at 80% of the way instead of starting at 0% every time?
That's exactly right. That's the exact right framing, Sam, is that you get 80% of the way there. And then that last mile work, like with anything else, getting from 80 to 100 is the hardest part. It's still time consuming. It's still time consuming, and it takes the human element here. And so what AI is able to do is you're able to codify these processes. You're able to maintain the human ingenuity because you're codifying the human strategy, but you're eliminating the human error of, getting seduced by volume or skipping steps in research or whatever it may be. And you're able to get to that 80, hopefully a little bit more % of the way there, and then spend a lot more time being thoughtful, being strategic, being creative in the way that you're executing your outreach and your recruiting efforts.
So there's already plenty of skepticism in the recruitment space about AI. People, it's going to take our jobs. It's just generative chat GPT. And now they're hearing this conversation where you and I are talking about how much easier it can make things. And they're just like, great, another check in the box of, is this shiny thing really going to work? So one thing that I enjoy is that you've been able to show how this is done. And I think that's so much more impactful than just saying like, use AI to do X, Y, Z. Like, you've done this time and time again that shows like, here's what you can do when you have the good AI process already built where you go and insert it And it's actually a lot simpler than you realize. And the output is mind blowing once you get to it. So would love if you're open to it too. We'll share it on here. So anyone who's listening to us, go hop over to YouTube or our website later on, and you can definitely check it out there. We'll share some videos, but we'll also talk through the process of exactly like what you're putting in, what some of the outputs are as a result of this. So if those are just listening, they're still going to get all the value from this.
What I'm seeing, Sam, and I understand the fear. People think, oh, AI is going to take our jobs and all the rest. What I'm seeing is it's just increasing productivity. So on the sales development side, what we're seeing is a lot of times the way that a company would be structured is one sales development rep is supporting two account executives. So doing the outbound prospecting work, generating pipelines, supporting two of the closing salespeople. In a post AI world, that ratio goes from 1-2 to 1-3, 1-4, something like that. So they're becoming a lot more productive, and that fundamentally changes the financial profile of the business. I think the same sort of thing can happen here for recruiting candidates. Instead, I don't know what the exact metrics would be for candidates. Of course, it changes for segment and role and things like that. But let's say instead of placing 1 or 2 people per month, hopefully you're able to place 3 or 4 people per month or something like that. And it's that kind of productivity gain that's going to make you totally indispensable, because you're going to be able to attract the best candidates who are not on the market because your outreach is going to be so much better than everybody else's. That's the power of this. The people that just go do the volume stuff and the completely AI recruiting, they're going to go get can I swear?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go get the shitty candidates who are going to be seduced by that. It's like any other big scam thing where the king of Nairobi is reaching out to you and the initial email is terrible, and it's intentionally terrible because they want dumb people responding to it. It's like the same sort of thing with bad recruiting emails. You're going to get bad recruits. Right? So anyway, I don't need to belabor that anymore. I'm going to show the sales context of what these workflows look like, and just know that this is totally translatable, as you just teed up, Sam, for all of the things that we're talking about here. So this is our product. And our product is architected through this concept of workflows. And we have the chat, the kind of Copilot ChatGPT experience here as well. But the real power is what we've been talking about with workflows. And what workflows are, as an example, we're going to start with account intelligence. So this is building an account plan. They are series of prompts that are sent to an LLM, or research steps or API integrations with another system or something like that are all stitched together in order to generate some sort of outcome in a repeatable sort of way. So what this workflow does is, given the company URL that you are researching, that you're prospecting into, and given the value prop of your company, go and do all these things. Understand, where are they hiring? What are they hiring for and why? If they're a public company, understand their earnings calls. Where are they making bets for growth? What challenges are they running into? Research their company news, CEO interviews, funding announcements, press releases, product launches, all of the things that are happening inside that company so you can really understand what's going on inside that company. Research the macro trends of the industry that they're in. So again, you now understand the company really well, and you understand the industry really well, and you're going to be able to connect the dots between what matters to the people that you reach out to as a result of that. Researching the company to know its products, personas, value props, all the things that it does, and then finally putting that all together into a single account plan, or what we call a point of view on that account. Take that account plan, take your value prop that we inputted here, and generate some angles for how to sell into this account. And so what it ends up looking like is something like this, where we run this workflow and we get this really nice aggregated account plan. So we're selling into a company called Red Canary. Here's everything that they do. Cool. And then here's how we can sell into them. Here's how our revenue platform can sell into and support Red Canary's strategic growth goals. I'm going to pause there. Questions or comments on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you were saying, this just took what's usually hours of work. You just went through this in 3 minutes, 4 minutes? And granted, again, this is 80% of the way there, but all that manual stuff that you used to have to go copy and paste things, drop it into Google Docs, wherever else, this is just consolidated a couple hours of work into a couple minutes of work. So from the workflow standpoint, absolute no brainer, this is going to make things easier. And it's also going to pull the things that are relevant to what you want to use as part of your outreach and conversation.
Exactly. So in a recruiting lens, maybe you would run this on the company that you are recruiting for, and you could understand like, okay, what's going on inside this company. Let's just scroll up real quick to the macro trends that are happening in the industry that they're in. So now you have the context of what's going on inside this industry. So like really, really easy to do great research very quickly.
Yeah, and can flip it on the other side too. If you want to go and attract, say you want to recruit for Apple, you'd love to have them as a client. You can do the same exact process where you put them and then you pitch them based on all of this.
It's a great point. Great point. So then step 2 is same sort of process for contact intelligence. Let's scrape their LinkedIn. Let's do all the things that we talked about, understand their work history, what they care about, technical skills, potential hobbies if they have them, summarize their recent LinkedIn posts if they're active on LinkedIn, and just understand what they're talking about. And then take those job responsibilities, take my value prop, and determine the use cases that they're going to care about. And so we have something like this. So now if I'm selling this company, Clary, into the chief revenue officer, here's what I'm going to focus on. Same sorts of thing that you could do from a recruiting lens. What are the things that they're going to care about for the value prop of the company that you're trying to recruit them for, all the way down the line.
This is brilliant. And I just want to read a couple of these so people that are listening. So it's like the first point, streamline complex security sales cycles. And before it even gets into sub bullets, it's saying as a CRO in the cybersecurity industry, Dennis likely deals with complex multi-stakeholder sales cycles. The unified revenue platform could help his team. And then it gets into the bullets. So it's that core, like, why does this matter for him? It is cascading this in an order that makes it so easy for you as part of your outreach to take that and use it.
100%. That's exactly right. And then kind of my Mortal Kombat finishing blow here is with outreach. Like, how do we take all of this and how do we create really effective cold email sequences? And maybe something you could share with the team, with the listeners, I should say, is this guide, Sam, so that people can understand like where do these, we talked about the Venn diagram, but then we get into other like checklisty type things for how to create good emails. And this workflow codifies all of the best practices that I've accrued over a dozen years of having done this. And so it takes that contact research, it takes that account research, and it connects the dots in the emails. So those 5 ways that we could reach out to the person that we found in the contact intelligence workflow. Now we're saying email 1, focus on the first idea. Email 2, focus on the second idea. And follow this format. Do these things from a style and substance standpoint, and then do this. I did my research in the first line, declarative statement. I'm asking a question that tees up my value prop and then issues a call to action. So this is probably going to be a little bit different from a recruiting standpoint, but the result are pretty darn good. Like they look really solid. So they're short emails, follow that exact format that we just talked about.
Easy to read, scalable, but still it has all of the information that you need to show like you've done your due diligence to do this and you're still going in, tweaking it. But yeah, I think sometimes we overthink what's possible with these types of things. Is it's either you have to do volume or you have to do hours and hours and hours of manual work to be able to write something like this. But that's exactly what AI is here for, is connect those dots between the two and say like, no, you can actually do what used to be this super complex process. It's actually now simplified for you to grow and jump off from. So,
exactly.
All right, have a couple, just what I'll say is like, I know recruiters going to be asking these questions right off the bat. So does something like this, so say you build out that account plan, does this translate across different industries? So say I'm an external recruiter and I have clients in the healthcare space, I have clients in the tech space, I have clients in the manufacturing space, or I recruit for very high level exec search. So like the next CFO at a big company or super niche hire or a high volume role. Like, does this translate across industries, job types, anything else? Could they use it in any form or function?
The answer is yes, Sam. So it's just a matter of codifying your process. So what I just showed is probably like 60 to 80% of the way there. Mm-hmm. And then we would do the other 20 to 40% customization based on your unique go-to-market strategies or unique recruiting needs.
Okay. Yeah. And so the other one is a lot of these industries. So we always talk about healthcare specifically. 70% of healthcare professionals don't even have a LinkedIn profile. So what if the company only has like very little information online, or the individual that you want to reach out to, they don't have a LinkedIn presence? Is there other items that you can plug in to get some of this information for it?
Yeah. So that's where I would probably suggest focusing on the macro trends of the industry is a wise angle to take, because that's going to be what's really relevant to them as you're doing your outreach. So there's always something online. Like good luck trying to keep yourself or your company offline these days. There's always something. And so it's relatively easy to go track those things down. And maybe it's not LinkedIn, but maybe it's like press releases or CEO interviews or whatever. Their chief medical officer interviews or whatever. So there's always something. But I would probably say focusing on the industry trends and being really sharp about what's happening in the industry would be a really smart way to go in that.
I like that. That's smart. Yeah. Relevance again to your point there. So Kyle, this has been a masterclass. I'm so glad we could make it happen. Any final parting thoughts, words of wisdom, last second things that people should think about as we wrap?
My main thought process here, Sam, is that learning how to prompt is really hard. It's like learning a new language. And the transformational business value, if you're a leader at a recruiting company or even for yourself individually, is probably not going to come from the co-pilot experience of prompting back and forth. The true transformational value is taking your domain expertise and using some sort of purpose-built software, whether it's ours or somebody else's, to codify that with AI. So don't put a ton of pressure on yourself to be like a world-class prompt engineer. It's really hard. What you need to know is your domain expertise, your processes, and then you need to have the systems thinking capabilities to say, here's how I can codify these processes using AI. And that's the balance that most teams and people are striking that's yielding really, really impressive results pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love it. That's the perfect spot to wrap this. So many people may not have followed you before, know about you. Like, where can people find you? Anything that you think is relevant, helpful if they want to learn a little bit more?
Yeah, but you want my OnlyFans or?
Yeah, if you got that, that'd be perfect.
LinkedIn. I'm Kyle Coleman on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. Well, Kyle, truly appreciate you taking the time to come in and join us on the show. I know that this knowledge, especially right now, is so valuable and the perfect timing for those who really want to hit this on a jumping off point. So I know recruiters are going to start taking and incorporating this in their day-to-day moving forward. So truly appreciate your time. Was great having you on, and hopefully we'll have another one of these sometime in the near future.
It'd be my pleasure, Sam. Thanks so much.
And as we wrap, Becoming a Hiring Machine is a production of Loxo. If you like this episode and you're not sure where to go next, we've got a link to a similar one in the show notes for you. You can find those in the description of your favorite podcast streaming platform, as well as on our website, loxo.co/podcasts. Full feed episodes are available on YouTube as well as on our website. If you ever have a specific question for us or looking for advice, send us an email, podcast@loxo.co. All right, everyone, that's the show. That was an incredible interview with Kyle Coleman. Until next time, bye, y'all.